For this release especially, it's an exploration of memory and nostalgia and the dual sense of memory and history, and that they are not always the same thing. And being nostalgic for a different period of time but not being critical of it, I think, is a disservice to the individual and collective memory. And so this collection looks at being a lover of VHS but also being part of a generation that's heavily suicidal, and what does that mean with mental illness, stigma, and living in a small town, and living it as a John Hughes film, but also knowing that there's an opioid crisis. What does it mean to be critical of these times and these moments in everyday life? Punk rock, I owe so much of who I am to punk rock and skateboarding. The perfect confluence of that angst and that desire to, go against the grain, and then, straight edge being this rebellion against excess. When sex, drugs, and rock and roll becomes a commodity, when it becomes a selling point, where do you go from there? When rebellion is no longer rebellion, it's the norm. And now you rejecting those things becomes rebellion, and it's important. And punk rock and skateboarding is an ethos, and it's an energy that pervades through generations, and I wouldn't be who I am without them. 13 songs, the Fugazi record, is an amalgam of their first two EPs, 7 songs and Margin Walker, and where Ian MacKaye was and all those guys were in their artistic expression in their time in their lives, and the DIY ethos that they championed above all other bands, it's incredibly inspiring and still unprecedented to this day. And I just think in everything they did, not wanting to advertise in Rolling Stone because they advertise alcohol and tobacco in there, and, just never conceding to any of the notions of how to be a successful artist. And it's just still inspirational to this day. And so kind of, paying an homage to that is exciting. It's really cool. Punk rock, for me to just do it, but also Wikipedia says that it's not technically a copywritten cover. There's not enough there for it to be, if I just had a picture of Ian MacKaye on the front, maybe he'd have some other thoughts. But on one side, there's not enough on there for him to sue me, but on the other side, punk rock, that I just ripped his album cover and that he likes it. It's kind of crazy that I'm choosing for my artistic outlet these avenues that are seemingly dead ends. If you go into a Books a Million or a Barnes & Noble, there's maybe a shelf in the back for poetry. It's been my experience that I'm just having to kind of machete my way through a lot of these, like making those spaces. House shows and backyards and coffee shops and punk venues, sidewalks, I'm just having to kind of carve my way through them. And there are people who are poets who are doing that, like Andrea Gibson, that I respect, and I'm seeing them play 930 Club, and I'm like, yeah, you can do that. But it's still a seemingly uncharted territory. But it's exciting, and it's to know that even in today's digital age, not every avenue has been explored or even carved out. And so it's cool. It's really cool. I thought all poets were dead, and so that's who I read. But when I found that there was a network of poets, of minority poets, of poets of color, of LGBTQ poets, it did something else for me in terms of how I write and what I write. So reading as much as you can from yesterday and today, and then just writing down the good, the bad, and the ugly, getting all of it out. That's the best, I think, that I can say on how to be a poet, and then just live, live your life, live your best life. So I'll be doing a few tours this year in the summer, making it to the West Coast with my buddy Georgie ADAMSON. and, you know, just hoping to go farther and reach more people and meet new people and just kind of keep going. So that's what I'm hoping to do, and that's where I'm going from here.